Maureen O'Hara's eyes move across the man sitting opposite her. She doesn't speak, doesn't blink. The entire set holds its breath. Here is the story. Hollywood, 1950. A rehearsal room on the Republic Pictures lot. One bulb overhead, two chairs, a narrow table between them. John Ford stands in the corner with his hat low and his arms crossed. He has made 50 films. He knows exactly what a room looks like right before something true happens. If you want more stories about the people who built Hollywood with unbreakable character, subscribe now. Every week, a new story you won't find anywhere else. The other actor enters. Mid-tier famous. Trained in New York, comfortable in rooms like this. The kind of man who takes up space before the camera rolls and doesn't apologize for it. He pulls his chair back with a confident scrape. Sits. Leans back. He's already performing. Maureen O'Hara's already seated. She doesn't look up, doesn't shift, doesn't offer any of the jice. Small social signals that say, I acknowledge you, I'll accommodate you. She reads the script. 1. Page folded back, her finger resting on a line of dialogue. Back straight, expression composed. She could be waiting for tea in a Dublin drawing room. The actor pauses. 1 second. Nobody notices except Ford. Ford always notices. Maureen O'Hara was 30 years old that year. 23 films already behind her. She had crossed the Atlantic, survived the studio system on 2 continents, and spent 4 years being told. She was too beautiful to be taken seriously. She had deep red hair that Technicolor turned into something nearly supernatural, green eyes that held light in a way that made cinematographers stop mid-setup, and a presence that genuinely confused people who expected beauty to come with softness. It didn't. Not with her. Not ever. She grew up in Ranelagh, South Dublin. Her mother, Margarita Lilburn, was a singer and actress who understood what the stage demanded from a woman and taught her daughter accordingly. Discipline, posture, voice control. The knowledge, passed down plainly, that emotion is most powerful when it is contained. That audiences lean toward what is withheld, not toward what is given away. That the camera finds truth, and truth almost never arrives loudly. Maureen absorbed every word of this before she was 12. Then spent the next 2 decades proving she had understood it better than almost anyone. Guildhall, School of Music and Drama, London. The Abbey Theatre, Dublin. Radio, stage, film. Anything that required full presence in front of an audience. By the time Hollywood found her in the late 1930s, she wasn't arriving to learn. She was arriving with the work already done. With a bilitis intestis weight, complete and unshakable knowledge of who she was. And no intention of rearranging that knowledge for anyone's convenience. In certain corridors of Hollywood, this was considered a difficulty. The industry ran on an unspoken agreement. The male star was the sun. Everyone else orbited. Directors framed leading men. Studios protected leading men. Every blocking decision, every lighting setup, every close-up ratio tilted toward the masculine center of whatever production was in. Progress. Female stars were meant to be luminous, emotionally available, and responsive. They reacted. The men acted. The formula worked because everyone honored it. Maureen O'Hara never honored it. Not through arguments, not through public confrontations or carefully engineered disagreements. She simply behaved as though the formula did not exist, with such complete composure and such absolute consistency that it became nearly impossible for anyone to name what she was doing. She never refused anything directly, she never demanded anything loudly, she just refused to disappear. And she did it so completely and so naturally that making her disappear became, on any set she ever worked on, structurally impossible. John Ford understood this from their first film together, How Green Was My Valley, in 1941. He watched her hold a scene against Donald Crisp, a man who had been making films since 1908, and who occupied a room the way a stone wall occupies a field, silently, completely, without negotiation. She didn't give an inch, not because she was difficult, because she was simply, entirely, unmovably there. Ford made a note to himself that day. He made 5 more films with Conta. Maureen O'Hara after that. Back in the rehearsal room. 1950. The actor is settled now. He looks at her with an easy expression and says, casually, not from the script, just to establish tone, "So, you ready for this?" Maureen looks up from the page. She looks directly at him. Says nothing for 3 full seconds. In a room that quiet, 3 seconds is a long time. Long enough to be a decision. Then she says, "I've been ready." She looks back down at the script. Ford, in the corner, almost smiles. Almost. What the actor feels in that moment, he will describe it years later as clarifying, not as an insult, as a recognition. He had walked into that room expecting a familiar dynamic and discovered, in 4 words and a deliberate silence, that the dynamic was going to be something different. Not cold, not hostile. Equal. Genuinely, unmovably equal. And the only correct response to that, for a just Asia, serious actor, was to rise to it. He rose. Good ones always do. They ran the scene. The first read was careful, both of them finding the edges of the material. The second was different. He was bringing more, not to dominate, but because he could feel something across the table that needed to be earned, and he understood instinctively that the only way to earn it was to deserve it. He delivered a line with real weight. He wasn't performing it, he was saying it. Maureen looked up. She looked at him the way the character was supposed to look at the character. Not beloved, befod sastered, not offered freely. Actual. Ford removed his hat. That, he said, is where we start. This is the core thing about Maureen O'Hara that set her apart from nearly every contemporary. Working those decades, she did not perform connection. She did not simulate presence. She waited, sometimes with a patience that bordered on maddening, until something real was occurring in front of her. Then she met it. Fully. The camera recorded what it found. Audiences felt it even when they couldn't identify it. That particular quality in certain scenes where this actress made them lean forward in their seats, while technically superior performances in adjacent films left them entirely. Still, the leading men who worked opposite her felt this most acutely. They were the ones who had to earn it. John Wayne understood this better than anyone living. He and Maureen O'Hara made 5 films together. Rio Grande, The Quiet Man, The Wings of Eagles, McLintock, Big Jake, and they produced what remains among the most genuinely charged pairings in American cinema. Not charged in the studio-manufactured sense, 2 attractive people placed in proximity until audiences accept what they're told to feel. Charged in the real sense. 2 people of equal will and equal craft. Inside material that demands both, and neither one yielding. Wayne was not an actor who needed co-stars to shrink so he could appear larger. He was too honest, too rooted in his own craft for that. But even Wayne, who had worked with virtually everyone in Hollywood by the early 1950s, said in later interviews that working opposite Maureen O'Hara required him to be better than his usual. "She doesn't let you coast," he said once. "You bring less than everything and she'll be standing there with everything, and the audience will see the gap. They'll know exactly which one of you." Tana decided the scene wasn't worth full effort. He paused before the last part. "That kept me honest for 30 years. He didn't say it as complaint. He said it the way people named the things in their lives that made them sharper. More awake. Less willing to mistake performance for truth." The Quiet Man, shot in County Galway in the summer of 1951, is the most precise document of what occurs when 2 actors of genuinely equal standing enter material that has no room for pretense. Wayne as Sean Thornton, a man returning to Ireland carrying something violence took from him that he can't name. O'Hara as Mary Kate Danaher, a woman of absolute pride inside a cow world that wants her smaller and simpler, a world she has been refusing to accommodate her entire damned calf life. The film holds because neither of them yields. Not to each other, not to the camera, not to the U-trace. Expectation that one of them will eventually settle into the easier, more passive position. Wayne's comment ends. Stillness is real. O'Hara's fire is real. The charge between them is not manufactured. It comes from Adaka Saka. Two people who have each, separately and completely, decided to bring everything they have. Ford shot certain scenes in a single take. Not from carelessness, because he recognized when something had occurred that was not going to occur the same way again. The argument on the road, wind coming hard off the Galway fields, the sky gray and enormous and indifferent, it exists in the finished film exactly as it happened. Raw. True. Irrepeatable. Ford knew it when he saw it, and Kuiaya, he had the discipline to stop reaching for something better. That was what Maureen O'Hara carried onto every set she worked on across 4 decades and 57 films. Not a method, not a strategy, a standard. Set before she fully understood what maintaining it would cost, and maintained without exception, without visible effort, for the length of Tuskawaku. An entire career. It cost her things. Roles with directors who wanted someone more malleable, more willing to be ahule. Redirected after she arrived. The easy institutional warmth of studios that preferred grateful and accommodating. The full critical recognition of her craft during the years she was doing her most powerful work. Because the industry, faced with something it lacked a clear category for, defaulted to cataloging her appearance rather than her art, she accepted these costs. Didn't perform bitterness about them. Didn't collect grievances. Didn't make speeches about what she deserved. She continued to be exactly who she was, with unwavering consistency, and she trusted, over a span of decades that would have exhausted most people's patience, that the work would eventually speak for itself. She was right. It did. In 1952, somewhere on a studio lot, a young actress asked her for advice. The woman was about to work opposite a co-star with a reputation for quietly taking over whatever scene he was in, adjusting blocking in increments that accumulated, finding the favorable light while his scene partner drifted out of it, accomplishing all of this with such professional ease that nobody could name what was happening until it had already happened. Maureen looked at the younger woman. A real look, with actual consideration in it. "Find your chair," she said. "Sit in it before he arrives. When he enters, don't move. Don't adjust. Don't make room. Be exactly where you are, and be completely there. The camera will see what's real. It always does." The young actress asked, "What if he tries to move me out of the light?" Maureen said, "Know where the light is before he does." Then she walked away. That advice passed through generations of actresses the way genuinely useful things pass. Quietly, from one person to the next, gaining weight with each telling. By the time it reached its 5th or 6th recipient, it was no longer practical instruction about blocking and positioning. It had, hakishi, become a philosophy, know the terrain. Arrive prepared. Don't wait for someone else to show you where to stand. Be there first. Be so completely, undeniably present that moving you becomes impossible, without everyone in the room understanding exactly what is happening and why. In 2014, at 94, Maureen O'Hara received an honorary Academy Award, the oldest person ever to accept it in person. She came to the stage in a wheelchair, wearing red, white hair, under the lights. She gave a short speech, thanked Ford, thanked Wayne, dead, 35 years, thanked her family. She didn't mention the battles, didn't name the role she was passed over for, didn't describe the vibe. This be dozakun years when the industry treated her craft as a footnote to her face. She said nothing about any of that. Afterward, a journalist found her and asked what she was most proud of. She thought. A real pause, with real thinking in it. "I never pretended to be less than I was," she said. "Not once. Not for anyone." Then a brief smile, the kind that belongs only to someone who has lived exactly the life they chose, and can see the whole shape of it clearly from where they're standing. About real presence happening in closed rehearsal rooms when no one important is watching. About the unspoken contest that plays out between every pair of actors who sit across a table and nechanin. Discover, in the first 4 seconds, what kind of scene this is going to be. About what it means to sit perfectly still while the room adjusts itself around you, not because you forced it to, but because you simply refuse to move. That's the Maureen O'Hara who didn't make it into the posters. The one who understood that commanding a screen isn't about taking up space. It's about being so completely, truthfully, irremovably yourself that space rearranges itself around you without being asked. That's the one worth remembering.